This is the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where we have conversations with everyday martial artists about their histories and how martial arts influence their daily lives. You are listening to the abbreviated version of this podcast, which is the first 20 minutes or so of the show. Please consider supporting the show by subscribing on our Patreon page, www.patreon.com/malmag, and for about the price of one coffee shop coffee per month, you can get access to 4 new podcasts each month, 1 week before their YouTube release dates. You also have access to all of our existing shows, which at this point is about 100 hours of shows for you to enjoy. Individual shows can be purchased at our Gumroad page. That is malmag.gumroad.com. This week I get on Zoom and I talk to Bloomington, Illinois, and I connect with Sam Spence, who is one of my good friends in the Inosanto family. We talk about how he got involved in martial arts, running his school, some strategies for taking notes at seminars, and his role in helping spread the art of Letway in America. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast. And this week I am talking with the state that I actually grew up in, the state of Illinois, and the state of chaos, something like that.
Yeah.
And chatting with a good friend I've met through the Inosanto program, and always excited to see folks back in the area that I grew up doing these things. So, gives me places to go when I go back around home. And this is Sam Spence from Champaign, right? From Champaign?
Or Bloomington. No, actually, Bloomington, yeah.
Bloomington.
Yeah.
I keep thinking college towns. And of course, sorry, I went to
There's a few of them. There's a few of them. So,
That's
yeah,
right.
About 45 minutes out of Champaign. So
That's right. Right. Okay. Yeah, I keep thinking I got cousins now, or a cousin now in Champaign. His wife is like head of I want to say psychology, because she worked with a lot of veterans and stuff, but she's head of like psychology at UI.
nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, and that's always been kind of one of those things where I'm just like, okay, got friends going to Illinois State, got friends going to Wesleyan, got friends going to University of Illinois, and then it's
There
like
you go.
jumbling in my head because I went to school out of state.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I want to get out of state.
Well, it was the vagabondness of my life that took me into all these different places. I went to school at Club Med in Miami, so University of Miami.
There you go.
Yeah, I wanted to tempt my focus, right? Can you focus and study in a place like this?
I could not. I know I couldn't. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh, that was fun. Anyway, you operate a pretty cool school called the Band of Brothers. And I think that's where you're sitting, if I'm looking right.
It is, yes, sir. At the Band of Brothers Martial Arts.
Cool. Well, I love that name because that was actually one of my favorite HBO series.
Oh yeah. For sure. So I can't take credit for it. My initial instructor, Scott Becherer, he had kind of founded the group, and that St. Crispin speech always kind of rang true to him as far as the we few, the we happy few, we Band of Brothers. And, just kind of so happened that then the Band of Brothers series came out and all that stuff. So a lot of times that it gets mistaken that that's where we got it from, but it's actually originally from the Shakespearean play. But,
cool.
It's a good correlation to make either way, because that's a phenomenal series. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and I like it too because it kind of, I think, gives an actual connection to the way I think a lot of us feel in this larger Inosanto group, because we tend to refer to it as an Inosanto family.
Absolutely. So the brotherhood, the community aspect of it is vital, not only to the when we go out and see like the quote unquote family reunions out at the academy, but then just in general, like the community and the brotherhood amongst all your training partners, you end up getting a pretty phenomenal connection with people that you normally would never really meet. In my opinion, I think Guro Rick out of Minnesota College Group, he was talking about it one time. He pulled me aside during one of the seminars we had hosted, and I thought it was really cool because he just kind of points to, a couple different people. It's like, that person's a doctor, that person is a blue collar worker on the water mains. Do you really think that they would hang out on a Saturday in any other scenario? Probably not. So I just think that's kind of a really interesting way to build that community. So
yeah, and I agree. And out of it, a lot of that is the driving force behind what this show is too, kind of getting to know all those different people.
yeah.
And that community is something. I've got that group in Moline that I'm trying to get, plugged into this stuff. And it's funny because I think the original school I studied at there in the early 80s was a unique thing in that there was there was Kempo, Shonji Kempo, Shornru, Taekwondo, Kung Fu. So that's 4 different arts plus a PK kickboxing program, all under one roof.
Wow.
So that was a very unusual thing for that time. Didn't quite operate like the academy in that you would have to, the 3 of the guys were subletting from
Sure.
So you'd have to pay each one, for, it wasn't like you could price and do all of them. But the thing was, we were all like within proximity of each other, and especially with that like kickboxing class there that a lot of guys wanted to compete in. So there was a lot of mixture of the people, and we socialized a lot together. So there was a very big family aspect of it. And what I find now, when I go there and I listen to the guys that are in this group that I'm working with, it's kind of back to, the old school sort of rivalries where, people kind of know each other, but they don't do a lot of mingling, and there seems to be this rivalry in there. So I said, look, I want to plug you into this larger Inosanto group, from the West. I said, you're going to like that. I mean, because he came to Legend, so he got an idea.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Of what that was like. And I said, now I can do that with more people in your area.
Sure. That's great.
To, not only the Inosanto circles, but the MKG circles. And then there's Hartzell people.
Yeah.
All and I said, these guys are all going to come together quite well. And I said, you can, obviously I can get in there and teach you, and you can be part of my program. But I said, you want to start doing the events that these other guys are doing too.
Without a doubt.
What you'll find is a very supportive community in the area. And it'll reinvigorate you. It'll fire you up. It'll make you feel like part of something a little larger. I said, and that will come out to your students as well. I said, and you'll be, I think, very excited with the change that you'll get over time with it.
That's great. And they seem receptive over it?
Yeah. I mean,
Good.
Very excited. So, it's a bit overwhelming because the one, they were all a group kind of the Kung Fu teacher out of that group I was telling you about. So my karate teacher has moved on. He lives out in Phoenix. So he's actually not far, obviously from here. And the Kempo guy, I'm not sure what has ever happened to him. And that's like a cool art that I can look it up, but I've never seen it anywhere else. Again, called Shorinji Kempo, Japanese art. And then I know the first black belt that my teacher had made still lives in the area. And then the first guy that I ever saw JKD and Kali from, which was the Kung Fu instructor, and one of his senior students named D, got back in touch with D. So I was, when was this? 80, 82 probably. So I'm like 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I think they had gone to a Degerberg thing. Like
that'll do it.
With Guro Dan. And so I went walking in the gym, and this was an old like YWCA. So it's a big gym floor, and we got some heavy bags. And these guys are banging away on the bags with sticks. And I'm like, well, okay, that's cool. And I kind of have an idea because I'm reading magazines, so I know who, what these things are. I've just seen photos. I've never seen it live.
Right.
These sticks. And of course I've seen Enter the Dragon. So I'm thinking, oh man, they're doing Filipino martial arts stuff.
Yeah. And
so I asked him, I said, what is this? They said, oh, this is Kali. And I'm like, oh, cool. Okay. And first of all, I'm thinking that's how you say it. Okay, good. That's good. I've not really heard anybody at this point. And the funny thing is that the memory of it is so vivid. I know exactly what they're doing. They're doing cop.
Oh, okay. On the bag.
So, on the bag. So I'm just like, okay. And then they're just kind of telling me about, the experience of it and how there's an empty hand for, adaptations and all the stuff. So that was really cool. So when I did a workshop back there and D came to it, I said, D, you have to do Sinawali with me because you're the first person I ever saw do this. So that was so amazing. Getting
Yeah.
the first person I ever saw to demo that with me.
Yeah. Doing that whole full circle thing. That'd be a pretty cool experience.
Yeah. And then unfortunately here in March, Seafood Chris, the guy who was the Kung Fu instructor, passed away.
Oh.
So yeah, which is really sad. We weren't really expecting it. We didn't think it, his health seemed pretty good and stuff, but he was 70 or around 70. So, and unfortunately with African American men, the life expectancy sometimes a little less, but again, it was a bit of a shock. And so right now I think Anthony's trying to take over there, trying to rally the troops and keep people going. So hopefully we'll get him. He was talking about coming out for Legends again and stuff. So, they're building. And I said, that's kind of the other reason. I said, once you feel like it's not so overwhelming, let me get you plugged in with these guys. So,
yeah, it can be intimidating walking into a Kali school or a JKD school for that matter. And you just see this giant, just vast sea of everything you don't know. You're just like, oh my goodness. Yeah. There's a lot of times people will walk into either our school or honestly, even if we walk into another school, it's just like, oh man, I am in over my head.
Right. But we've grown comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big purpose of why Guro Dan does what he does with us too. He was, I want you ready to be able to step into any place and be fine with the fact you don't know a damn thing. But you start being surprised at how fast you do catch on.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
Oh yeah, of course we do. Either we're all insane sitting here with these stupid smiles on our face, or we are really enjoying.
There's definitely a level of that. How many weekends out of the month we spend traveling, all the money we spend traveling, but it's totally worth it. It's so much fun.
Exactly. Well, if you don't like doing something, why do it? But
exactly.
If you do it.
Yeah. Yep. Live it up.
Well, Sam, tell us how you got started, man. How did you get involved in martial arts, and why, and when, and how?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I can kind of give you the way back story of this was
way back. The
Wayback Machine. Right.
You're an old guy like me. That's awesome.
Well, I'm an old soul.
Okay.
But anyhow, so my parents started me off in Taekwondo when I was probably 7 or 8 because I was pretty introverted and still fairly introverted. I just happen to know, like you were talking about earlier, the community aspect of stuff. Yeah. I get told that all the time. Like, you don't seem like an introvert. I'm not when I'm with people I know and people I trust and people I care for. But if you put me in a crowded room of people I don't know, I'm going to hang off on the side.
I think that's natural for introvert, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So anyhow, they put me in there. I did probably 3 years of Taekwondo. I got to one of the middle ranks. I don't know, purple belt or something like that. And then I did Midwestern boy things. I got into football and baseball and wrestling and that kind of stuff. So, it started just doing that thing.
Now, are you from Bloomington area?
Yeah. Okay. Born and raised here. So, I will say I've spent quite a bit of my life. My parents own a farm west of town. So Bloomington normal. And then like my second life is on a farm. So it's.
Lost signal.
Kind of back and forth between mid-sized city. There you
go. We kind of cut out a little bit. Go back to spending half and half farm and.
So just basically, I would spend most of the week through school and stuff like that here in town, the mid-sized city, and then bounce to the farm for the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and just play in the dirt and do all that sort of fun stuff. So I had kind of a fun upbringing when it came to that. It got me out of a lot of trouble too, because I didn't get invited to a lot of stuff because they knew I wouldn't be able to go. But
okay.
Yeah, so it worked out perfect. But anyhow, so I got into the football, the baseball, that sort of stuff. And then in high school, started dating a lady, and she was into the theater program.
Okay.
And she invited me along. And I told her I would do it as long as I didn't have to wear tights. So I jumped in. I tried out for a play. And I told the lady
Shakespeare or something.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know at the time. You don't know. You just in the high school, it was just sign up for the fall play. So I signed up for the fall play. I tried out, and I told them the director as I was doing the sort of test. I don't want a speaking role. I just want to show up. I'm just really kind of here to hang out with my girlfriend. So lo and behold, I end up getting like a soldier's part or whatever, but I still had to wear tights, and I was really ticked off about that. But so I didn't have any speaking part, but it was supposed to be 2 weekends out of the year, ends up being 2 weekends out of the year, and then we got nominated to go to like state for like drama championships or something.
Oh,
so then I had to do it another. Yeah, I was
now you're
really upset about that.
The whole state. Good.
Yeah, I was really upset about it. But so anyway, because of that, I basically swore off the acting side of stuff, and then decided, because I'm not
your career so early, dude.
Yeah, well, you know, there's a reason I don't live out in Hollywood. But ended up doing the tech side of stuff for the play, and the tech side of stuff is really cool. It just started raining here like quite a bit. I hope you can still hear me okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, perfect. We started doing the tech side of stuff, so I'd build the sets for the play. I'd still get a chance to hang out with my girlfriend, my friends at the time, but I'm swinging a hammer, I'm screwing screws, that kind of stuff. It was a lot more my speed, and it was that point I met my good friend Dan, and Dan and I we started doing martial arts, but we didn't realize what we were doing. We were looking at books, we were looking at like all the Stephen Hayes, like Enter the Ninja stuff and whatnot.
See, this all sounds just like, I know these stories, man. This is how it works in the Midwest.
Hey, it works, man. I mean, I was reading all sorts of like Secrets of the Ninjas and stuff like that. And we would literally grab a book, be like, okay, so step 1, step 2, step 3. And he's like, all right, go. And he just like punched me in the face. It's like, well, that didn't work. So we
steps in there somewhere.
We had a few issues, but you know, it was fun. So anyway, Dan and I, we got together there. We ended up building like this little small core group of guys, and we would just look through magazines, look through books, and then try it. And we'd run through it slow, you know, like 5 or 10 times, and then think we could spar it. You know, Midwestern boy stuff, right?
Well, and, this seems to be actually normal for everybody, you know, even still now, right?
Yeah, no doubt. That's a good point. Yeah, people walk in the door here, and the first question they ask me is, when can I spar? It's like, whoa. Yeah. So anyhow,
they can go right now if you want.
Yeah, no, I never say that. I'm not that aggressive when it comes to it. I'm just like, well, we'll see. But anyhow, there was one day we were working, and Dan, he threw like a low shot, and I parried it, and then he backfisted me right in the face, and I was like in the dark world. Like I was on my back under garage. Wow. I was out cold. And you know, it was a garage concrete floor. I bounced my head off of it. It wasn't a very smart, safe way to train. And I woke up on the ground, and I remember thinking to myself, like, man, this is never happening again. Like, this was dumb. And you know, there's a few other expletives and whatnot in there. But so anyhow, that next day, I ended up hopping on Google and trying to find Jeet Kune Do in the area. And luckily I hopped right into training with Guro Scott Petrie and Dave Rogers, and never really looked back. I did that at I was 15, and I've been doing these arts ever since. So that was roughly
lucky for you had Google, man, to find it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm an old soul, but I'm definitely right. You brought up you were 12 in 82, and I was born in 88. So
gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I was a high school grad by a year at that point.
Yeah. So in 2003, 2004 roughly is when I started in the Inosanto family. And,
wow.
And like I said, I've been hitting it pretty hard ever since. There for a while with Scotty's classes, we were doing 3 hours every Tuesday, 3 hours every Thursday, 3 hours every Saturday. So, and it just rolled along with it. That was basically the introduction that I had to the Inosanto family. I was always intimidated to travel out, to actually go see Guro Dan, to actually go see some of the other instructors that we influenced, that influenced us, until probably 2 or 3 years into it. So I saw Guro Dan for my first time probably in 2006, 2007, somewhere in that range. And then just kind of built it up from there. So
wow, that's cool.
That's sort of the condensed version of my inception into this Inosanto family.
Well, that's really neat, you know. And looking at the timeline and just kind of knowing the state of Midwestern martial arts from when I started stuff. You know, you got in at a really good time. I mean, realistically, because you figure probably, I'm going to bet Scott probably got a handle in there, probably not too much before you were there. I mean, realistically.
Yeah. So I think, started in the mid 90s, like 94.
Right. Which is kind of when things are really starting to spread out. Because I started at that time period myself in Florida. So it was
okay, cool.
That's where I found it. I lived in Florida at the time, not finding the same thing I was doing. So I'm like, well, got to start something new. Might as well, check out different things. Yeah. Obviously, the whole Seagull craze was going. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll try it. And the place just wasn't really overly available. I didn't even get a chance to go in and see it. And then I'd seen one of those. You probably remember like the Weekender type papers where there'd be like news stories and stuff, and it'd be more like entertainment based than all the listings for concerts and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it was like an ad in there. Obviously, things to do. So it was like a good place to advertise that kind of business at that time. And the guy was advertising. He was a JKD instructor, and he was training at this community center. And of course, what's the first thing? I mean, maybe it's different, I guess, in your age range, but in my age range, the first thing you're thinking when you're JKD, you're like, backyard, people training in the backyard. It's people training in garages and stuff. And so when he did a community center outside, I'm like, right, that's JKD. So
exactly. Yeah.
Talked to the guy on the phone for quite a while. We were actually very close in age. And I went down and watched it. It was actually farther away from me than I initially wanted to travel, because I lived on the St. Petersburg side of the St. Pete, Tampa area. But yeah, so I'm like traveling over into Tampa by USF, like onto the other side of it. But I liked what I saw so much. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to deal with this travel, right?
Right.
And do it. And so, and I remember it was probably, it was right after Brandon Lee had passed away. So that's kind of like the time period. So, but yeah, it was, I think things were spreading out at that time. And I remember when I got plugged in, like, the big names out there, you had like all the guys that were doing the videos that you would see in magazines. So Vunak, Burton Ridge, and Lukai. And then what was really cool was there was, and Guro talks about this guy a lot, out of Oklahoma, Terry Gibson.
Yeah.
And Terry Gibson had like a newsletter, but you could subscribe to it. And so they made this, I've still got this Quest magazine that they had for a while. I subscribed to it, and it was kind of cool because, I mean, it was thinner than like a magazine, but it had like maybe 8 articles, but they were all good. Like it was all just good stuff on. In fact, it's funny because I'm seeing the Monday Muda symbol behind you, and there was a great one on Pop Herman too. So it's just like, it was really cool. And then he had some videotapes out. So it was like 2 people, putting money together and buying a videotape, because those things weren't cheap back then, and it was neat. And then Muay Thai was becoming a thing. And we went out and, some guy, Vut Kamar, who's a Thai guy, from LA at the time, was like in Lakeland, Florida. And this is like some little podunk town between Orlando and the East Coast. And we're like, yeah, we're going out to Lakeland. It's just like crazy.
You got to do it, man. You got to do it.
Right. So, I mean, I think you got in at this peak time where people were doing that thing, and then opening up schools and places. And it was a good growth period, I think, for it. And so, I think your timing, so to speak, was really good. You got in at a time that it was growing and available, where certainly in 81, when I was like, you could go to Chicago and you could find it with Fred, but that was 2 hours away from me.
Right.
But it was cool. Like I said, Chris and D and his guys were experimenting with it a little bit, but of course me and my buddies were doing the same thing you were doing, reading the books, reading the magazine. We had an actual karate class that we were going to. We had PKA, like actual fighters and champions that we were working with. So, it wasn't so much like knocking each other to the floor and knocking each other out like what you're doing, because we were getting some real training, but we were looking like, okay, well, how do we understand this shit in the book? Can we do this, and can we practice it? And, it was a lot of, running around in ninja suits in the woods, but we did a lot of actual training and sparring, because we were too young to be out partying. Yeah. But we could get around the area, because you know how it is in the Midwest. You just get on your bike and you fucking go. Yep. Right. And absolutely. So, same thing. So it's like we just went all over, and usually we were staying the night at somebody's house, and that's all we did. Stay up all night and freaking train. Yeah. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that is really interesting how it just kind of transcended between the two of us there, because I did
Yeah.
the exact same stuff. I didn't necessarily dress up as the ninja running through the woods, but there was definitely a few
Well, the
times
suits
where
were expensive. There was only two of us that actually had them. And, the rest of the guys were like black suit, ski mask with the eyes
Yep.
cut out.
Yep. Yeah, I did have a pair of Tavi boots. I will admit that.
There you go.
Scotty never lets me live that down. But so my buddy Dan and I, he was really artistic. Actually, he got a degree in art, and then actually lives in Japan now, teaching kendo. So he's got a pretty good pedigree. But we would laminate wood together in order to make different like hardness katanas and stuff like that.
Oh.
And yeah, he's phenomenally talented. We had a forge set up. We would hammer out our own knives and hammer out our own like habaki and whatnot for katanas. But anyway, we also had probably a stack that big of little wooden shuriken, and we'd run through the woods and like whip them at each other and whip them at each other.
I was waiting for you to come up with this. I'm like, if you didn't have throwing stars, man.
Oh, we did. Yeah, we definitely did. I can tell you right now, when some of my students hear this, and Scott, when he hears this, he's going to be ripping on me again. But it was so much fun. There was a couple times some of our other friends would be coming over to do the.
And this concludes the abbreviated version of the podcast. Please consider supporting the program by going to www.patreon.com/malmag and subscribing to the show. You can also purchase this individual episode or any individual episode at our Gumroad page. That's malmag.gumroad.com. Thank you for listening to this episode with Sam Spence. Coming up next week, I talk to another one of my Hartzell lineage big brothers, Reuben Griffith Jr. Our Malmag online store at martialartslifestylemagazine.com has a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Krabiker Bong. Timmy B's brand now selling in Japan as well. Beautiful Timmy B's brand shirts and Dos Manos shirts are available with new t-shirt designs and more products coming soon. An online course in the Dos Manos method for FMA is available under the Courses tab. More courses coming soon. Check out the Places to Train tab to find schools near you, and click on the events calendar page to see what seminars and events are happening all around the world. And of course, visit our main page for articles on the martial arts. Music by Jack Al Relic. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.